Something was moving through the dark behind me, and it was not human. My shoulders were scraping raw against concrete walls that kept closing in tighter with every step, and the thing chasing me had not slowed down once. I was underneath my own backyard, stuck in a tunnel nobody was supposed to know existed, and I was starting to think I would not make it back out. This is the story of how a beer cooler project turned into the worst night of my life. I used to be the guy everyone wanted at their party. Back in my early 20s, I was drunk more often than sober, hopping between every bar in town, showing up at parties I was not invited to, throwing my own that people still talk about. Live fast, die young. Except I never died. I just got older, and eventually there was nobody left my age still doing it. Most people quit partying because they grow up. Not me. I quit because everybody around me grew up first, and I got tired of being the oldest guy at a 22-year-old's kegger. My friends moved on. I stayed behind, clinging to my 20s while I crept toward 40. Eventually, I had to admit I needed a change, and that admission dropped me straight into a depression I did not see coming. I put the bottle down and threw myself into work instead. Things improved, slowly, but some part of me never stopped missing who I used to be. Then, after months of staying sober, something shifted. My mood came back. I noticed it first as a lightness in my chest at my desk, like a weight I had forgotten I was carrying had finally eased off. I started actually talking to my coworkers instead of just nodding along in meetings, and they liked what they saw. A few weeks ago, they invited me to a get-together. No idea alcohol would even be there, and it turned out there was wine on the counter, cases of beer sweating in a cooler by the door. More than enough. First drink in 6 months hit me fast, warm behind my eyes almost instantly. I caught myself before I drained the whole stash and slowed down, nursing the rest of that bottle for an hour. Still had a great night. That was it. Was hooked on the feeling again. I asked around if people wanted to come to my place the following weekend, and everyone said yes. Something old woke back up in me. That title, King of the Party, calling my name again. I dragged the ancient fridge out of my garage, one I had not touched in years, scrubbed it down, hosed it out in the backyard, swept the porch, wiped down every piece of patio furniture. Friday, I hit the liquor store and loaded up. Beer, seltzers, wine coolers, enough to pack that fridge tight. I was ready. I thought I was ready. Turns out I overdid it. Badly. My guests showed up expecting a couple of casual drinks, and instead watched me get completely wrecked. Out of politeness, nobody said a word that night. They just sipped their one drink each and let me be the show. Monday morning, I apologized to everyone, mortified, and they let me off easy. Fun night, they said. Just do not pull that at one of our places. So I needed to find the line. Party enough to still be me, but not enough to be an embarrassment. The answer found me while I was scrolling Instagram at 2 in the morning. A video on sinking a beer cooler straight into the ground. Sleek, understated, classy even. I decided that was the move. I gathered my tools and started digging that same afternoon. The sun still high, sweat already collecting at the small of my back. Did not get far before the shovel hit something hard, a dull thud that traveled straight up through my arms. My lawn, it turned out, was not sitting on a full foot of dirt like it should have been. There was concrete underneath, and when the blade struck it again, the sound came back hollow. Wrong, like knocking on a door instead of a floor. Curiosity took over. I widened the hole, found an edge, kept following it, tearing my lawn to pieces without a second thought, dirt caking under my fingernails, until I had traced out a full square. Under the last of the loose dirt was a handle, cold and gritty against my palm. It was a door. The slab lifted easy, thin, lighter than it looked. No hinges, so I just heaved it aside completely. Underneath, a ladder dropping down a shaft into black. Common sense caught up with me exactly 1 second too late. I was already halfway down into total darkness. I ran inside, grabbed a flashlight, ran back out, and kept climbing. That was the full extent of my judgment that day. 15 feet down, maybe. I swept the flashlight across a tunnel splitting 2 ways. Under my own house, I figured. My property, my business, and left it at that. Time to explore. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo 10 feet forward, a left turn, another left, and suddenly I was walking back the direction I had come, just on the other side of a wall. Strange. 5 feet more or right. 5 feet after that, another fork. Another round of eeny, meeny, and I was moving again. I kept this up for a long while, picking directions at random, treating the whole thing like a game. I should have been counting my steps, marking turns, anything. Instead, I just wandered, confident I could retrace it whenever I wanted. Then the flashlight started flickering. I had not thought to check the batteries. Time to head back. I could always explore more later. I got tired fast, my sense of direction slipping with every turn I tried to remember. Not panicking yet, just concerned. The tunnels were 4 feet wide. I could feel my way along the walls, even blind. Then the flashlight died completely, faster than I expected. I reached where the ladder should have been. Nothing. No rungs, no opening above me, no daylight. And it was still the middle of the afternoon. I backtracked a few steps, sure I would find it just around the bend. I did not. That is when the panic actually set in. I stopped making good choices and just started grabbing at any path, any direction, moving like something cornered. Exhausted, I stopped to lean against a wall and felt a rung under my palm. Relief flooded through me and I started climbing. Halfway up, something needled at the back of my mind. Where was the daylight supposed to be pouring through? It should have been afternoon light, not this. I froze on the ladder, both hands locked around the rung, breath loud in my own ears. Had someone put the cover back? Why would anyone do that? Whose backyard was I even under? I kept climbing anyway. At the top, I pushed against the slab. It did not budge, heavier than I remembered. I pushed harder, palms flat against the cold concrete, veins standing out on my forearms. If there was dirt piled on top now, that explained the weight. But I did not want to think about what that meant. I braced my back against it and shoved with everything I had, teeth gritted, legs shaking on the rungs. It gave just slightly. I kept pushing until it finally slid clear enough to shimmy aside, grinding across concrete as it moved, the sound scraping straight through my skull. No light came through. Pitch black. Still in the tunnels. I must have drifted down some slope I had not noticed, gone deeper without realizing it. Go back the way I came or push forward from here. I was higher up now, closer to the surface than before, so I climbed the rest of the way out and kept moving, one hand tracing the wall. The tunnel felt different now, wider. My fingertips barely reached both sides at once. I followed every twist, picked a direction at every fork without thinking too hard about it. Then my foot caught something heavy on the ground and I yelled out, pain shooting up my leg. What came next stopped my blood cold. And to this day, I could not tell you exactly what I heard. All I know is, I had gotten something's attention, and it was not human. I stood frozen, every muscle locked, my own pulse suddenly the loudest thing in the tunnel. Maybe I had imagined it. Then came the sound of feet, more than 2, pounding across concrete somewhere ahead of me, quick and uneven, wrong in a way I could not name. I spun and started moving fast, not quite running, because running meant slamming face first into a wall I could not see. Whatever it was gained on me steadily as I rounded corner after corner, its footsteps bouncing off the walls until I could not tell how close it actually was. I hit a fork, guessed at random, tried moving lighter on my feet like it might lose track of me in the maze. It did not matter which way I turned. It stayed right behind me, close enough now that I could hear it breathing. Then the path opened wider, and I was moving in a straight line for a while. This had to be the way I came in. I braced for the ladder, ready to climb, slammed the cover shut behind me. Instead, my fingertips started brushing both walls at once, tighter than before. I told myself I was misremembering the width, but the tunnel kept narrowing while the footsteps kept closing the gap. My arms could no longer stretch fully to either side. I finally accepted the truth. This was not the way out. I searched for another turn, another branch, anything. There was not one. The walls just kept squeezing in as the footsteps behind me got louder. Adrenaline took over and I broke into a sprint I knew was reckless, hands out in front to take the impact instead of my skull. My shoulders were already brushing both walls. I kept running anyway. Eventually, I had to slow down just to fit, turning my body sideways, crab walking through a gap barely wider than my ribs, and the thing behind me had not lost an inch of speed. My chest and stomach dragged against stone on both sides. How was it still keeping pace? Something that thin. I slowed to almost nothing, just trying to force myself through the gap 1 inch at a time. That is when it hit me. I was not getting out of this. Either it caught me, or I got stuck here for good. A few more steps and I found out which. I was stuck. The tunnel kept narrowing, and that thing was still coming. Then my hand found a corner. I nearly missed it. My fingers curled around the edge and I understood, all at once, that the tunnel widened just past this point, if I could squeeze through. I felt the walls dragging across my back and chest as I pulled with fingers that did not have the strength for it. I spread my legs, planted my back foot, and shoved my torso forward with everything my leg had left. It moved, slowly. The footsteps were almost on top of me now. Just a little more. My hand found better leverage, pulling while my leg pushed, inch by inch, until my arm came free enough to plant my elbow against the stone and drag the rest of me through. I exhaled every bit of air in my lungs and gave one final push. The corner scraped along my ribs as the walls nearly pinned my torso in place. And then I was through. It hit the gap right behind me and stopped cold. A squeal tore through the tunnel, high and wrong, echoing off stone until it seemed to come from every direction at once, as it wedged itself into the same space I had barely escaped. I never saw what it looked like. I did not need to. The sound it made snarling behind me, low and wet and furious, was enough. No idea if it could force its way free, so I did not wait around to find out. I kept moving, chest heaving, as fast as my legs would carry me. Every step put more distance between us, and the sound behind me faded until I could not hear it at all. I was still lost, still somewhere under my own backyard with no idea which direction meant home, and still very aware there could be more than one of those things down here. For a while, I really believed I would wander this maze until I ran out of water, or ran into something worse. Then, rounding another blind corner, I noticed something changing. Light. Faint, barely there, but real, painting the faintest gray edge onto the walls in front of me. I followed it, and felt a breeze brush against my face for the first time in what felt like hours, cool and smelling faintly of cut grass. Off to my left, shapes on the wall. Rungs. I ran for them without thinking twice, knees weak, hands shaking as they found the metal. At the top of that ladder was a sky full of moonlight, and I have never been so happy to see anything in my entire life. I climbed out on legs that barely held me, dragged the cover back into place, and buried it under a fresh layer of dirt with my own 2 hands, packing it down until my palms ached. Something about almost dying underground rearranges your priorities fast. I'm done with all of it. The drinking, the late nights, all of it. I'm turning my life around starting right now. Right after this next drink. 'Cause heck, I earned that one.